My special guest on this episode of The Truth is Viral is Charles Strange. Charles is the father of Navy SEAL Michael Strange, one of the 23 SEALs that was killed aboard Extortion 17 that was shot down in Pakistan by Taliban fighters. And Charles' story is really going to move you. But the first part of this show is dedicated to you. It's about you, dear viewer. Because I can stand up here and flap my gums all day long, all night long, and nobody's going to pay attention unless you share this show. Unless you get involved on your own. And that's going to be the focus of these first few minutes of this show, because there's this one grandmother down in Kentucky, great-grandmother, okay? This is one lady you don't want to mess with. And she sent me one of her videos, and I want to share it with you. And when it's over with, I'll come back and we'll get to that interview with Mr. Charles Strange. This is a great show. You don't want to miss it.
Welcome back to The Truth is Viral Live. It's Friday, the 31st day of January in the year of our Lord 2014. My name is Bob Powell, and you are watching The Truth is Viral Live on bobpowell.blogspot.com and the guerrillamedianetwork.com. Don't forget to check out GMN's Telestream, too. They're broadcasting the show live as well. We've got a lot of stuff tonight. And here's my... I've got so many notebooks around here. Most of my stuff I put down on paper. I'm an old school journalist, pencil and paper. Because I do not trust technology, not one little itty bitty bit. But tonight, our special guest is Mr. Charles Strange. Charles' son Michael was one of the Navy SEALs on board Extortion 17, decrepit CH-47 Chinook helicopter, the kind that I used to fly around in when I was in the Marine Corps. And Charles believes that the United States government is complicit.
The show live as well.
In covering up. And I'm getting some feedback from you there, Pete.
Oh, beautiful. Here's my, I've got so many notebooks around
here.
Like
delayed about 30 seconds.
I don't know where that's
paper,
coming from,
I'm an
but we
old
got
school
it.
Journalist, pencil and paper. Because
there we go. Sorry about that, Bob.
That's okay. Not a problem, brother. We got it all settled up now. Okay. I've been having... We'll get to Charles' interview at the bottom of the hour. But I wanted to start off tonight by talking about some of the comments that I got from last week's show. You just can't please some people. It just can't be done. A lot of people, tell me, that a peaceful demonstration is not going to work. They're just bound and determined to take up arms against the United States government. And I'm not an idiot. I realize that at some point that is an option. But it is our last option. Okay, everything else must be tried before something like that happens. And even then, if we want to be on the right side of history, we have to let them attack us first. So, one of the comments I got underneath one of the videos today said, so everybody's going to go to Washington, D.C., and they're all going to get killed, and then what? Well, then you're going to see something awesome. If Fox and MSNBC and CNN and all these other... because by the time you get 30 million people in Washington, D.C., you're going to have all these networks covering it. But if they cover the United States government opening fire on unarmed citizens, that's all she wrote. Nobody's going to stand for that. Now, are we going to get 30 million people in Washington, D.C. on May 16th for Operation American Spring? Well, if I was a prophet, I could tell you. I do know that a lot of people are getting angry. They're getting very angry. Young people. I've had kids as young as 15, 16, 17 years old, asking what can they do. And I've had grandmothers asking me what they can do. And I'm really proud of these people. Because the most important thing that you can do right now is to speak up. Let your voice be heard. I've been doing this for 2 years now. I'm starting to get somewhat of a following, but other people are following me. I've gotten letters, all kinds of letters, people telling me how proud they are of me and how they want to follow my example. And that's exactly what this one lady did. I'm not sure exactly how old she is, and not sure it would be appropriate to ask. But she has said that she's a grandmother. And I want to play this video for you that it's just a short little clip. And to hear this woman speak, it absolutely brought tears to my eyes. It made my heart well up. Because this lady could be my grandmother. She could be your grandmother. She's just one of those tough old Bible Belt ladies. And she goes by the name of Weeping Willow 2 on the internet. And I'm going to play her video for you right now.
Today is January 25th, 2014. I'm fixing to read a speech I just wrote. This goes to all Kentucky congressmen and senators of the Commonwealth of Kentucky and this nation. What has happened to you? Have you sold your souls? Have you been castrated of your manhood? You have turned your hearts against the very land that prospered you. You no longer represent the good of this great and beautiful nation. You have undermined her majesty. You have usurped the Constitution. You've committed treason. You've committed tyranny. You've undermined our traditions. You've disrespected our veterans. You've forgotten our veterans. You have forgotten the people. You war for profit to your own greed. You were sent to Washington and elected into the position by we the people. You have forgotten your honor. You have forgotten you work for us. You have attempted to shred our Constitution. Possibly not all of you have become crooks of the American people, and I don't aim to offend those that possibly haven't. As for the others, if the shoe fits, wear it. You have your own agendas for your own prosperity. But let me clue you in. We are a nation of givers, a loving people, and we've given and given and given. We are the sleeping giant. We the people have awakened. We the people are watching each and every one of you. We the people sleep no more. We the people are tired of your robbing us, spraying us, lying to us, poisoning us with the weather modification, and also through GMOs and fluoride, tainted vaccines in our children to set them up for disease later in life and or die of some illness prior to even growing up. So you can make more greedy money for your poisonous pharmaceuticals. You perpetrate your false flag one after another, your actions and all the shootings to attempt taking our right to bear arms. Get this also, Mr. President, it is not going to happen. You are not our dictator, nor will there ever be a king over America except the one which this nation was founded on. We, the people, will not allow it. You all can write thousands of your laws, executive orders, but we will not obey because they are null and void as they usurp our Constitution. You are dishonorable. We, the people, will rise up. We, the people, are fed up. We, the people, demand your resignations because we, the people, will hold you accountable for your actions. We know how you vote. We know what you've done to our beloved country. The law calls for you to be hung. Instead, we ask you to step down, to vacate your office. A citizen's arrest upon you all will likely ensue if you don't in due time. You gravely mistaken that we, the people, will not revolt in due time. You are, in fact, pushing for that. Remember, there are 314 million people in this nation. And how many are there of you? I am a broken down, totally disabled, injured worker and a senior citizen, grandmother and great-grandmother. But by the will of Father in heaven, I will fight for God and country, even if it means with a rake or a broom handle, as I'm sure the rest of my brothers and sisters and we the people will stand up to do when the day comes. I am Carol Roberts.
Yes, sir. Carol's angry, and she has every right to be. And not only is she angry, I think that her anger is representative of a majority of the people of this country. Teenagers, people in their middle ages, great-grandmothers. They're all angry, and they're not willing to just let our republic be stolen from us. They're standing up, and they're making their voices heard. And that's something that you can do too. You don't have to have a degree in broadcasting to do this. All you need is a YouTube channel and a camera and an opinion. Make your opinion known. Send your videos to your congressman. Send them to your friends. You know, the time for worrying that people are going to call you a religious tinfoil hat wearing nut job is over, folks. We are running out of time. And if we hope to save lives and win souls for Christ, we need to get on the stick. Okay? Now, I don't mind walking point, but I need you to back me up. I need you to take my flanks and my six. Okay? I need you to share The Truth is Viral with everybody that you know. Come and like us on Facebook. That's a very important tool for sharing the truth. You know, follow us on Twitter. And go to ttiv.forummotion.com and join our forum. But the most important thing that you can do is share the show. Underneath this video right here and all the other videos, you hit that share button and a bar opens up where you can share it to 10 different social media platforms. You know, don't just share it on your Facebook timeline either. Copy and paste the information at, bobpowell.blogspot.com. A link to the story will always be in the description below. And just copy and paste that link and share it in all of your Facebook groups too. That will get us a whole brand new audience. People that haven't heard of The Truth is Viral. People that maybe don't run in the same circles that we do. Okay? But we need, whether you do it yourself or whether I do it for you and you share my show. Okay? Stand up and make your voices heard. And that's what my next guest is doing and has been doing for the last couple of years. His name is Charles Strange. And he's the father of Michael Strange, one of the 23 Navy SEALs that was killed on board Extortion 17 when it was shot down inside Pakistan by a lucky shot from Taliban. You know, at least they call it a lucky shot, Charles seems to think. And there's pretty good evidence to indicate that not only was the Afghani government involved in the murder of his son, but also elements inside our own government were aware of exactly what was going on. And they sent those SEALs to their death on purpose. Now, towards the end of this interview, it's going to start getting a little bit disjointed because once we started talking about the NSA and how they've bugged Charles' home, his computer, installed cameras in his home, take pictures of his wife, well, we started getting hit with a DDoS attack. So I have salvaged as much of the interview as possible. Most of it's there, but there may be some missing pieces, and, you know, what can I say? I'm sorry. But they've got bigger and better computers than we do. But you'll get the gist of it.
Welcome back to The Truth is Viral Live. My name is Bob Powell. You're watching The Truth is Viral on bobpowell.blogspot.com and at the Guerrilla Media Network at guerrillamedianetwork.com. And tonight, my very special guest is a man that I've got something in common with. We spoke the other night, kind of like a pre-interview kind of thing, and we talked for quite a while. My daughter Ashley died, and her memory has propelled me to do what I do. The man that we're about to talk to lost his son, a brave American hero by the name of Michael Strange. He was a Navy SEAL. One of those rough men that protect us while we sleep. And on August 6, 2011, Michael Strange was murdered. He didn't get in a bar fight. He wasn't messing around with somebody else's woman. He was doing what he was put on this earth to do. He was fighting our battles for us. He was fighting for the United States of America. He was fighting in Afghanistan. And he was betrayed. On August 6th, 2011, just a few months after Osama Bin Laden had been killed, Michael got on to an ancient CH-47 helicopter, old Chinook, the kind that I used to go flying around in the 70s, with 38 other men, 22 or 23 of them SEALs. The entire SEAL Team 6, these were the guys that had killed Osama Bin Laden. And their mission was thrown together at the last minute. They were told that they were going to protect some Rangers that had gotten in trouble. But they knew. These SEALs knew, just by the way this mission had been put together. Even before this mission, they knew that they were walking into a trap. And their helicopter was shot down by a quote-unquote lucky shot by an RPG by 2 Taliban. At the maximum effective range of an RPG, about 700 meters. And one hell of a lucky shot. After their bodies came home, these guys right here, brave men one and all. Look at these. After, when their bodies came home, there was an investigation. And Mr. Strange was given some information, but they gave him a little bit too much information. He ended up with 1,300 pages of documentation that laid out the whole lie from beginning to end. You know, maybe somebody wanted to get the truth out there. I know that there are still patriots in the United States military. And I can just imagine the pride that might have been felt by somebody that might have slipped in this extra information. But that's just speculation. I'm just curious how he got the information. But we'll find out because we're going to talk to him right now. Ladies and gentlemen, it is my distinct honor to welcome a great American to The Truth Is Viral. His name is Charles Strange, the father of Navy SEAL Michael Strange. Charles, are you there?
Yes. Thank you for having us on, Bob. Me and my wife, Mary, really appreciate you. Help us get the word out there about Extortion 17. Biggest loss in the Iraq-Afghan war, 30 brave Americans. And the biggest loss in any war, 22 special op guys. And thank you for having us on. And you were hitting it right on the nose. You know, that's what General Colt said. It was a lucky shot. I stood up at the hearing in October 12, 2011, and I said, what are you effing out of your mind? Lucky. All our sons are dead. And this is supposed to be, you know, this guy's got all the stars and medals and educated. And it's a PSYOPs move. You know, they kept you up, they kept you down. Look over here, what we're doing for you. Don't look what's happening. And that day with the briefing, he did the investigation. Yeah. Jeffrey Colt. And
Charles, I think you probably know what happened in Afghanistan more than probably anybody else. I'm sure that this has haunted you night and day. You've gone over these documents with a fine-tooth comb. This is the first time that you've been on The Truth Is Viral. Would you please tell my viewers what happened on August 6th, 2011?
Well, April 15th, 2011, Michael called home. And he said, Dad, you're not going to hear from me for at least 2 weeks. No cell, no computer, nothing like that. I'm like, you're going to be all right? And he's like, yeah, I'll be all right. He goes, anything happens, you'll know why. And, of course, everybody knows what supposedly happened May 1st. And Michael came home in June. He came home in June, and for the first time in almost 8 years, he was part of SEAL Team 6, the gold team for 4 years. He grabs me by the bicep. He said, Dad, I got a will. I'm like, what? He said, Dad, I'm not messing around. Listen to me. And he did it 3 times that weekend. Grabbed me by the arm. And he stopped at Aunt Maggie's house, my sister, on the way back to Virginia, and told her about this will. Then he also left Philadelphia 4 days early. He never left 4 days early. Here, all them guys left a different way. One guy used to hit his dad in the stomach. Don't drink all the beer. I'll see you in 3 months. the time he puts his hands on his dad, tells him how much he loves him, thanks him for the way he raised him. Another guy brought his whole family down to Virginia, even his grandma. You know, another guy told his wife and brother, I don't know about this next one. They all knew somebody was leaking. They just didn't know how high it was. Because you trust your government. Growing up, you figure, you know. And that's how Michael was. He trusted these people. And next thing I know, August 6th, I have 4 guys from the Navy here tell me he got hit in a helicopter with an RPG. It blew up in the air. It blew up again. And then when it hit the ground, it blew up a 3rd time. And he was already cremated. So it wasn't like an option. And so you figure, you know, you're out of your mind. You know what I'm talking about. And December of 2011, I called Dover and get the autopsy reports. And I'm looking at the papers, and there's no smoke in his lungs, no broken bones. And my wife, Michael's stepmother, is looking at the pictures. They sent a disc. And I said, they were pretty bad. She goes, well. I said, what do you mean, well? They said he burnt. It was in the newspaper, in the Pentagon paper. Who was it? Nancy Campbell?
David Lappin.
David Lappin, a Marine. And Jane Campbell. 38 skulls, 38 C-spines. And then the other person said no identifiable remains. So I look at the picture my wife has up on the computer of Michael, and he's intact. The only thing wrong with him was his ankle. And he was stretched out, looked like he had a gun in his hand, the way his hand was formed, fighting for his life. And you could see his hair on his arms. I mean, he didn't have to be cremated at all. And, you know, so, but October 12th, we're in Dam Neck. Jeffrey Colt's putting on the investigation, telling all the SEAL team parents what happened. And I asked, you know, can we have the after action report? And he said, it's in the book, sir. I said, well, what happened to the black box, which is really orange? And he raises both hands and he says, it got washed away by flash flood. So they give us this book, and inside the folder, there's also a disc. And I find out from one of the other parents the next day, the military said, oh, we shouldn't have gave the parents this disc. When I get home, I open up this book. There's no ink. There's no toner. You can't read it. So I call up Admiral Sean Pybus, Commander-in-Chief of CENTCOM. I said, Sean, I got to pay a copy here. He said, we got a lot of complaints about that. I said, all right, send me another one. He said, we can't. We burned it. You burned it? So I put the disc in, and 100 little blocks pop up. And you click it again, click it 3 times, and then it finally opens up. You're going to read like 3 sentences, then it's blurry. And then my wife, I said, we got to do something. My wife says, I know what to do. And she took it somewhere, figured it out through a maze, and printed it out. 1,364 pages. And I sent some of the pages over to you. You know, the Taliban knew. General Cope got the investigation. He says, well, what was the assessment of the Tangi Valley? And the guy, Air Force commander, says, well, May 10th, 2011, 100 Taliban are coming from the blank Providence to the Tangi Valley to shoot down the coalition force. How did they know?
Okay, well, let me ask you a question there, Charles. Just on my fingers here real quick, I counted 4 months in between May and August when your son was killed. Am I to take that to mean that these Taliban were waiting in that area for 4 months, or did they just start moving into that area 4 months ahead of the downing of Extortion 17?
Oh, they had a plan. It was planned. What did Michael and them guys know? I mean, Michael grabbed me. He said, Dad, you wouldn't believe what's going on in this country. I tried to get it out to him, and he kept everything to the vest. He followed orders. He would have went in there on a 10-speed if they told him, because he trusted them people. And somebody set him up, without a doubt in my mind. There's too many coincidences. A lucky shot, the Taliban May 10th. No satellite, no eyes in the sky on him. No cameras. There was 4 cameras there. Jeffrey Colt, the investigator, asked the guy, why don't you have a camera on Extortion 17? The guy answers. It made us feel very vulnerable. We never did a mission like this. He says, our hands were tied from up above.
Were you ever able to get any clarification on that? I've heard you say that before on other programs, but have you ever have you ever got any clarification on who up above tied their hands?
That's why we need this investigation. We need everybody to call Congress. I mean, we need somebody held accountable before somebody else's son and daughter gets set up like this. This is crazy.
Hey, Charles, from the way it looks to me, it looks like your son and the rest of the SEALs were just set up from the get-go, because SEALs normally fly around in UH-60s, okay, the Blackhawks, and they never put an entire team on one chopper, but here they stuffed the entire team into one sardine can of a CH-47, a 50-year-old helicopter, and then when they sent the mission that normally is planned ahead, well ahead, they were a quick reaction force, from what I understand, to relieve some Rangers that were in contact with Taliban. But these quick reaction forces are put together many days ahead, but this one was put together in the space of an hour. When they took off, there were no Apache gunships, no Apache escorts. They went in alone in a really old CH-47 Chinook helicopter. I just can't understand that. It just looks like a setup to me. What do you think?
Oh, absolutely, 100%, sir. Bob, it's a 1960 helicopter, Chinook 47D, refurbished in 1985. I just had 3 Navy SEALs I was hanging out with. They got out in 2010, 2008, 2007. One guy was 21 years. The other 2 guys was 8 and 10 years. You know how many missions they did in a Chinook helicopter?
Not a clue.
None.
Yeah, it kind of made me laugh a little bit. I mean, none of this is funny, but it's just so ironic, because 1985 was just a couple of years after I got out of the Marine Corps. And I've been out of the Marine Corps for 30 years, and that was the last time that this particular helicopter had been retrofitted, in 1985. There's something wrong with that.
Yep.
Okay, now, after...
something. They told the parents there was no black box, no recording device. Once I started going public, that them Chinook helicopters didn't have any recording devices, no black boxes, nothing. So the parents started to say, Cal, they said there was no black box. And you know this better than just as well as I do. I said to the parents, I said, do you forget October 12th at the briefing? He raised both arms and said the black box got washed away by a flash flood. They went, oh my God, he told us the black box.
Yeah.
Like they're lying through their teeth.
Yeah, that doesn't happen. Black boxes just don't wash away. And don't they also have tracking devices on them, so that if they do happen to be buried in mud or whatever, they can still be found?
They find them in the middle of the ocean, in the middle of the swamps. Them black boxes.
Yeah. Now,
So for them guys just to keep lying in my face, and then our investigation was supposed to start this week. It gets moved back 3 weeks.
okay, they don't just set your son up to be killed. They add insult to injury when their bodies are at Bagram Air Force Base. And they bring in a Muslim cleric to say a prayer over them. Well, I've read the transcript of that prayer, and that Muslim cleric damned your boy and all the rest of those fine SEALs to hell. Of course, his opinion doesn't matter jack to me, because I know that he's serving the wrong God to begin with. He's praying to the wrong God. But still, was there any reason to bring in a Muslim cleric to pray over the bodies of your child? Was there even one Navy SEAL that was a Muslim that died on August 6, 2011?
No.
So they were all Christians, and yet they brought in a Muslim cleric to pray over them and damn them to hell. So just add a little bit of insult to injury. Yeah, we've got a real jerk off as our president, or our commander-in-chief. I'm sorry for my language, but the things that I want to say about him, my Christian nature just won't let me. I'm trying to be a good boy and not cuss so much these days. But they even brought the dead Afghan National Army soldiers back to the United States. Do you know why they did that?
No, but I know one thing. They called the Afghan people to tell them that their son was dead, her husband, and then they had to call them back. They had the wrong one. 5 minutes before the helicopter took off, 7 Afghans that were on there got off. 7 different ones got on. It's in the paperwork, Bob, and they don't know the names. Who okayed that?
They still don't know the names of the men that died? The Afghan national soldiers that died, they still don't know their names?
Nope.
What kind of a war are these people running? How can you put 7 men on an aircraft and not know who they are? And still not know 2 years afterwards, almost 3 years. 2.5 years anyway. That's just insane. I don't believe that.
Right.
Well, I believe it, but I shouldn't have to believe it. You just recently, you and your attorney Larry Klayman had a big victory against the National Security Agency. Can you tell me about that real quick? We've got about 10 minutes left to talk about this.
Hey, here's my wife. She was the main plaintiff on that. Me and her. She'll fill you in. She's the computer person. And my friend Dave might be calling in.
Okay.
Hi, how you doing?
Hi, how are you? I'm glad to hear from you.
Hi.
I understood that you guys and Larry Klayman just recently had a big victory against the National Security Agency. Can you tell me about that, Mary, please?
Oh my God, it was unbelievable. It was November 18th, 2013, and well, let me back it up a little bit. The reason that we went and we're fighting the government for tapping our phones and computers and listening to everything, we believe is because we've been asking questions about what happened to Michael and all the men all aboard Extortion 17. And, my husband was getting text messages from 001, 000, and we called Verizon because that's who our carrier is. And Verizon said, no, you didn't get those text messages. And I said, yeah, he did. In fact, they're locked in the phone. I'm looking at them right now. I told the operator on the other end from Verizon, I said, this is the date. Here's the exact time that it came in. I'm looking right at it. She said, ma'am, that's not showing up on our screen. So, and then I I was on my computer, my home computer, and we have no camera attached to our monitor at all. The flat screen monitor, there's no camera attachment for anything anywhere. And I'm sitting there and I'm trying to download a couple things, and all of a sudden, across my screen froze, and at the top it said FBI Cybercrime Division, stating that I was trying to illegally download copyright, and I was accessing illegal sites, and I'm like, what the hell are they talking about? I'm just trying to download a stupid game and a couple other things. And and it had my picture, my picture on the screen. And I'm looking, I'm like, oh my God, that's me. And I looked at what I was wearing, everything. It was, at that moment is when they took my picture, so it was a live picture. And, you know, it kind of freaked me out, because I know we have no camera. And called the FBI. They're closed on Sundays, by the way. I swear. I called up and they said, got an answer machine and said, you know, we're closed. Our hours of operation. Please call back during the next business day. I guess, you know, the feds don't think that people do crimes on Sundays or something. I don't know. But, yeah, so we went and, you know, enough. And then the icing on the cake was my husband got an email from Michael, from my stepson, his dead son. He got an email.
And
Like probably October, I think it was.
this past October of 2013?
Yes. Yeah. And he was freaking out, you know, and like, how dare you play with his head, you know? How dare they? How twisted and evil. That's just pure evil.
Okay, well, Mary, we're coming up on a break. Let's continue this conversation on the other side of the break. We've got 3 phone calls waiting on the line, and we will get to you folks just as soon as we can. You're watching The Truth is Viral live at bobpowell.blogspot.com and guerrillamedianetwork.com, and we will be right back. Welcome back to The Truth is Viral live. My name is Bob Powell. It's January 31st. 2014, and today we're talking about Extortion 17. We're talking with the Stranges, Michael and Mary, and now in this half hour we're going to start off talking with their IT guy, their computer guru. His name is Dave, and the disc that had all this information on it. This is something I just learned myself just this very minute. The disc that was sent to Charles Strange that had that 1,300-page report on it also had some very interesting and little nasty surprises on it. Dave, can you tell us what you found on that disc that was given to the Stranges by the United States government?
Sure. Let me back up a little bit before that. I met Charlie at a veteran retreat. I'm former U.S. Navy. You know, I'm a patriot. I love government. I have no vested interest of what's going on here, and I just met him at this veterans retreat. During the retreat, he comes to me and says, "Hey, look, I got this disc from, you know, this thing that went down to Dam Lake, Virginia, in, which happens to be where I went to my A school at." He says, "I put it in my computer on this date at this time. It starts acting really weird. It tells me about the 100 little blocks, things like that." And I'm like, dude, that doesn't sound right. Look, after we're done here at the veteran retreat, here's my name, here's my address. You know, look me up, bring it over to the house. You know, let me take a look at it. I'm pretty good at getting rid of viruses. I've been doing this for 20 plus years. So he brings his computer over to me. He says, yeah, you know, gives me the date and time that he put this disc in. So I was reading the disc, and it started doing all these pop-ups, and, you know, then it just freeze up, and it would lock up. And then, you know, it just seemed like somebody took mouse control, and it just, weird stuff started happening. I said, it sounds like you got a virus, Charlie. So I started looking, you know, kind of going, you know, disc and time, yeah, okay, it's coincidental. Sure enough, you know, he gave me a specific date and time, and
you could see all the files that had happened around that date and time. I ended up having to boot with a separate boot disk to actually look at his hard drive. And I found the viruses. They're called keystroke loggers. What they do is they actually capture what you're typing, and they send it off-site, whether it be an email, whether it be into your bank information, whether it be your credit card. It sends all that information off-site. So I started looking at the coding behind it, the config files, the data link libraries, and breaking them down. And I actually could see they were these long hexadecimal codes and alphanumeric codes to a .gov website. And sure enough, I mean, I saw everything. So it took me about 4 hours to get rid of all these viruses. And at that point, I started looking, and what happened was those black boxes she was referring to were actually the installers that were installing things to her.
Okay.
So at this point, I mean, they fully infected his computer looking at what he's doing. And I am, in my profession, I've been doing this 20 years. And, to me, if somebody affects the computer, there's a reason why. I'd like to know why, but why would the government give him a disk that would infect his computer with keystroke loggers trying to see what he's doing? The other interesting part is I can concur. Mary and Charlie do not have a webcam, not in any way, shape, or form. Mary actually took a screenshot with her phone of this picture that it took. And if you look, it has nothing to do with the monitor. The picture came from the right side of her where she's looking at the monitor and up, like on a desk shelf or somewhere. And my reaction is, Mary, you've got some type of electronic surveillance in your house. You need to have your house swept by, a professional who can possibly find these things.
And was the house swept?
That I don't know. I know she was tearing the desk apart as I was talking to her looking for it, and I don't know if she ever found anything.
No, I haven't. I think they probably cleared it out, Dave. Hi, Dave.
Hey, how you doing, Mary?
Hi,
Some of the weird things. I saw these files that she's referring to, and they were severely redacted. And I actually showed her a way to unredact what you could with a program. It's on the internet. It's an Adobe product. You can, if they're not redacted correctly, you can unredact them. So they found out a little bit more information, which led them to other places to look. And then the thing that I don't get is that black box. All right, being former U.S. Navy, you can't lose a black box unless it's directly hit by a missile or directly hit by pretty much a nuclear explosion. I mean, they can be destroyed on impact, but they have homing devices. Those homing devices last anywhere from 7 to 14 days, depending on how long the battery is. So how could they lose a black box? That I don't get. And the other thing I don't get is why would they cremate this young man? The only thing wrong with his, I believe his right ankle was damaged. Otherwise, why? It doesn't make sense. And like I said, I'm former U.S. Navy. I'm a patriot. And, I trust in my government. But all of a sudden, I'm going, what the heck? It isn't right.
Right.
You didn't even tell him about the cell phone, Mary, than the ringtone?
Yeah, oh no, I didn't even get to that yet. Just a couple of weeks ago, me and Child were laying in bed. We were watching, that movie Pretty Woman with Richard Gere and Julia Roberts. Now our phones were plugged in for the night, and we're laying in bed watching that. And I said to him, "Hon, you ever been to an opera?" He said, "No." I said, "I'd like to go to one just to check it out, and see how it is and whatever." He's like, "All right." Well, I had Toby Keith on my phone as my ringtone. And the next day I'm at the store, and my husband, my phone rings. I look at it. It's Charlie. I go to answer it, and he hung up. And then it rings again. It's him. He called back. I said, "Why'd you hang up?" He goes, "I don't know. Opera came on your phone." I said, "No, you probably dialed the wrong number. Call back. I'll let it go to voicemail and let me know." So he did. I let it go to voicemail. And Opera, they changed my ringtone to Opera the next day. So that's, yeah.
Well, let me ask you guys a question. Did any of this information, the keystroke loggers or the viruses that you found on your computer, did any of that information play a role in that NSA lawsuit that you filed with Larry Klayman?
It absolutely did, yes. Yes, it did. And
Well, his attorneys were on their way down to D.C. is where they called me, and I kind of explained what had happened step by step. They actually sent me an affidavit via email, and I signed it. From what I understand, when they gave it to the judge, it made a turnkey decision in what they decided.
Yep. Oh, yeah. That was, let me tell you, Dave is unbelievable with computers. Now, when he opened our computer up the first time and seen that virus, he was like, "Oh, yeah, Charlie, man, I like me a good challenge, you know. What you got in here isn't even out there yet, you know." And so on November 18th, when we went against the NSA, they came in with 7 attorneys, and, you know, they were trying to say that the metadata that they collect is only phone numbers. There's no names or addresses attached to them. And they're under such high security, it's like, you know, you just can't get to it. Nobody can. Well, I guess they think that people don't do their homework. And what they failed to say was that 13 employees that worked for the NSA had a suspicion that their spouses were cheating on them, and they hacked into the metadata to listen to the phone calls of their spouses.
So they can listen to people, regardless of what they say about nothing but countries and phone numbers being collected. They can listen to your phone numbers. They can read your emails. They can do all that stuff that quote-unquote conspiracy theorists have been accusing them of, can't they?
Yes.
They are doing it.
I can tell you as a network engineer 100%, I can read other people's email if I choose to. But because of my profession, I don't. Because me, that's, you know, crossing the line.
Right. Right.
Well, the government doesn't seem to have any lines that they won't cross. I think that's one of the biggest problems that we have today is they don't play by any rules anymore. I don't know that they ever did, but it's obvious now that the administration is lawless. They send the National Security Agency after reporters, even reporters that are relatively friendly to them, and it's just a real mess. So, what have you done to improve your computer security since then?
And, you know, like most people are scared to death of quote unquote Big Brother. But what people don't realize that there's strength in numbers. You know, we all the American citizens have to get together and fight back. That's the only way we're going to beat them. You know, like we have to fight back. Stop allowing them in your home without your okay. They harass people. They tried to freaking strong arm you. You know, we've been threatened. You know, guess what? We're from Philly. We do fight.
Well, what kind of threats have you received? And where do they come from?
And talk about that. I'll let my husband tell you about that.
Okay, sounds like a plan.
Hey, guys.
Hey, Charles, Mary was just telling me that you guys have been receiving threats. What's that all about?
They don't like to be questioned. They told me don't be asking no more questions. They went to the other families and told them, if you go with Mr. and Mrs. Strange, them checks to come, that college tuition for your children, they might get lost. Bob, you can't get a bigger threat than that. You believe that? You want to marry?
Mike or Charles, what have they told you? What have they said to you? How have you been threatened?
They told me to stop asking questions.
And if you didn't,
Put a text
what?
message on the phone, that's the threat, taking a picture of my wife while she's sitting in our living room. They followed us a few times. We came from an event up in New York, right? Back to Philly. So we stepped at a rest stop. We're in there for a few minutes. What's the chances of two guys that were at the event all weekend stopping at the same rest stop, leaving the same day we're leaving? You know. And when I peeped them, I said, "Hey," they go, "Oh, hey, how you doing?" Yeah. So, my son,
Charlie,
Michael,
tell him about the guy who approached you on the cell phone, what he said.
Michael won at the NSA down there at Fort Meade. They had me down there. His name's on the wall. I met Alexander and all them guys, and very bittersweet. So we're out in the parking lot, and the guy comes up to me. He says, "Mr. Strange, every time you're on your cell phone, you could be all the way down the street, Mr. Strange. I hear everything you say. Every text message you get, I get right here. And you can walk up to me, Mr. Strange, and I hit this button, and it all disappears." So was he threatening me or warning me? You know, I played it off like, wow, that's amazing.
I think I would have wanted to know a little bit more about this guy. If somebody had come up to me on the street and said that he can read all my emails, I would have said, well, show me. And then if he had been able to show me, well, then he would have to next show me a badge or show me his empty hands. Because that's illegal.
His name, he's military. He's an E9. I think he's an E9. Been in 20 years. Yep.
So how well do you know this guy?
He was around a lot when August 6th and a couple of the other things. Whenever we went anywhere, well, we got stopped for getting invited to any of the functions. Michael just won the National Intelligence Medal of Valor. Only 19 ever been given out. And we weren't invited, me and my wife. And they mailed it to us. They mailed us the medals. And, you know, we're not invited to anything no more because we asked questions. And now, what they didn't plan on is, it started off with me and my wife, and then we got the people from Florida involved. We sent them a letter on how to do a couple certain things. My wife did. And now we're up to 24 parents, and I believe it's higher than that now because they sent in over like 1,000 questions to Congress, and they all called when they heard about Michael getting cremated, and he didn't need to be cremated. But Dover will not release any more discs with the pictures of their sons' bodies. I don't know where that is in the Constitution. I don't know if we have a Constitution anymore. It's a disgrace. It's scary too. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
They just control everything.
I agree. Now, you've been talking with a couple of representatives and senators. I remember you said that you were speaking with Jason Chavez and Daryl I.S.I. What is the status on this congressional inquiry? Is it going anywhere? What's next?
Well, it came out on Foreign Policy magazine twice, and the reporter's name was Dan Lamas, and he actually interviewed me twice or three times, and he actually just put it in December's issue. And he called, and Jason said, we're definitely going to have an investigation. I believe he was on one little small news media and said it's definitely. But they just called me and my wife last week, and they moved it back at least 3 weeks. No explanation. Benghazi, some other things. 30 guys die. And what's more important than that? I mean, God bless them poor people from Benghazi. I've talked to Mr. Woods, but I lost my son too, you know. And we don't get, you know, it's so big. It's bigger than Benghazi. They know it. It goes all the way to the top.
Well, in all fairness, Charles, I think Benghazi goes all the way to the top too. I think that's exactly how lawless our administration is. They don't care when they screw up or if they do something intentional and anybody finds out about it. Well, it's just, oh, shush, 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 shush. And 4 of the 5 major media networks don't cover it at all. Fox might give it 30 seconds and then you forget about it. Well, I'm not going to forget about it.
Yeah.
I'm making a list. I am. I'm making a list. I've already put up one video. Matter of fact, that's how Pete and I got to know each other, calling for the impeachment of Barack Hussein Obama. That listed his many crimes. It was a dramatic recitation of the Declaration of Independence, and I thought it was pretty good. You can click that link right there and watch it. But the many crimes of the Obama administration, they're just building up and building up and building up. And I'm getting a notice that my internet is jacked. I'm breaking up badly.
Yeah, you're breaking up. You're breaking up real fast.
You are. We're going to go to a brief break, Mr. Strange. Stay right there. We'll get Bob Powell reset on his internet. Ladies and gentlemen, you're listening to The Truth is Viral with Bob Powell on the Guerrilla Media Network. We'll be right back.
Welcome back to The Truth is Viral Live. My name is Bob Powell, and we have some technical difficulties. I guess the federal government does not like what we have to say. Well, you know what? I got something to say to that. Right there, buddy. For those of you that are listening and not watching, I just flipped the NSA a finger. So, yeah, these guys are going to have problems with me because I just won't shut up. It might be a failing of mine or maybe an attribute. I don't know. We'll figure it out at some point. So we're talking tonight with Charles Strange, the father of Michael Strange, Navy SEAL murdered in Pakistan, a part of SEAL Team 6. He was on a helicopter that went by the code name of Extortion 17, and it was an old helicopter. It was an old CH-47 Chinook. That itself was unusual. It went in unprepared into a battle zone. It went in without escort. It was shot down by probably the luckiest shot of an RPG that could ever possibly be made at the maximum effective range of that weapon. The black box is missing. The government said that everybody in the helicopter was burned beyond recognition, yet when Mr. Strange got photographs of his son, the only thing that was wrong with him was a messed up ankle. He was perfectly fine. But all of the men that were on Extortion 17 were cremated against their wishes. They were prayed over by a Muslim cleric who said that they were going to hell, even though none of them were Muslim, not a single one. And then when they got back to the United States, the bodies of these brave men, their families were met by President Obama, Secretary of State Hillary Clinton, and these cold bastards just looked these families right in the face and lied to them. Just flat out lied. Just like the lie about the YouTube video causing the attack on the CIA outpost in Benghazi. That was a lie. But they kept that going for 2 weeks. Now they've kept this lie going for 2 years, 2.5 years. According to what Charles said earlier in our conversation, in 3 weeks we might get some forward motion going on this. Jason Chavitz and Daryl I.S.I have promised that they're going to look into it. I really don't know how they're going to find time. Got so many doggone scandals. But they have made that promise. And the Truth is Viral is going to hold them to that promise. Because the short time that I've known Charles Strange, the reading that I've done and everything that I've done on his, or to research him, I've found a man that is a great American, the father of a great American. And he's got this website that I would like you to write down and visit if you get a chance. It's called the Michael Strange Foundation. It's at michaelstrangefoundation.org. You're looking at the website right here. It says Voices for Silent Heroes. So I would like for you to go to that webpage, check it out, find out all that you can about Extortion 17, because it is one of the least reported yet most serious scandals of this administration. So before the NSA or some other three-letter agency decided to mess with our video stream and audio stream, we were talking to Michael Strange, or we were talking to Charles Strange and David, his IT guy, about the viruses that they had found on the computer, the threats that the families have been receiving. And I believe I was, when things started going bad, I was asking Charles about this E9. Somebody that had... Charles, how would you describe it? Would you say that he was your shadow after your son came back from Afghanistan? Was he somebody that was assigned to you?
Yeah, him and about 3 other guys. And, before we got the paperwork in October, I was still, asking questions. Like in Dover, August 18th, 2011, when the bodies were coming in, Barack Hussein Obama came up to me, put his hands on my shoulders, and he looked me in the eye, and he said, "Michael changed the way America lived." And I grabbed the president by his shoulders, and I said, "I don't need to know about my son. I need to know what happened." And I was shaking him like a bobblehead, and the Secret Service guys grabbed me. And I'm crying, and snot's coming out of my nose, and he's standing there, and I'm wiping my face, and he comes up to give me a hug. And I whispered in his ear, "Is there going to be a congressional inquiry?" And then I could feel his lips touching my ear, and he said, "Mr. Strange, we're going to look into this very, very, very deep." And he never got back to me. 15 minutes later, Leon the Snake Panetta comes up, puts his hand out. He says, "Mr. Strange, I'm going to ask the same question." I said, "You're going to ask the same questions? He's Secretary of Defense. Do something, blah, 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 blah." And that's when the Secret Service guys took me outside, got a glass of water, and smoked a cigarette. And, so they knew that was it. And then when October 11th, before we went to that meeting, we were in a hotel with some of the family members. My wife left at the front desk. Anybody from Extortion 17 want to meet Mr. and Mrs. Strange in the lobby at 7 p.m. And about 9 families came down, and I got them all together, and we met, and we talked and cried, and the next day they took us over to General Colt's horse and pony show about what happened. And when I walked in, me and my wife, Bob, they came up to us while we were walking in and said, "That was very nice. You got everybody together last night, Mr. Strange." They knew. They knew the night before we got everybody together at the hotel. So, and that, they were, when a bus would come, they took us up to Manhattan. The bus would come and pick the families up. And me and my wife, they say, "Oh, Mr. Strange, we got a car for you." They didn't want us talking to the other parents. They wanted to separate us.
Well, you're not the only parents that are speaking out about this, are you? There are others, right?
Oh, now there is. Yeah. This was in the beginning. Yeah, Charlie's leading the charge on this, and that's I give him props for that because he's not taking it lying down. Thanks, Dave. You're welcome, man.
Okay.
If you would have asked me 2 years ago, could this happen in the government? I would have said, "No way, you're crazy." After all I have seen in the last 2 years of this, I'm like, really? No, really? It's just, it's insane.
No, David, I think that you and I are in the same boat because I served in the Marine Corps in the 80s. I never did see combat, but I learned about honor in the Marine Corps. I learned about telling the truth. I learned about doing the right thing. When you've got a job to do, you get it done.
Yes.
Now,
What you want is follow your orders.
As long as they're constitutional and lawful. There's nothing lawful about intimidating American citizens.
No.
There's nothing lawful about lying to them. Unless something's classified, but they haven't made any statements that anything's been classified, have they? Have they said that they can't tell you something because that information is classified? Charles, are you there?
Justified. It's not like it's a frivolous lawsuit. I mean, you're justified in doing what you're doing in going after the NSA as you are. Bob Powell, are you back?
I am. As soon as I started talking about classified information, I got kicked off again. Okay, let's see if I can get it out this time. Charles Strange, was there any time during any of the questions that you asked the government that they told you that they could not tell you something because that information was classified?
Well, that was Charles Strange, father of Michael Strange, one of 23 Navy SEALs on board Extortion 717 that apparently were murdered by the United States government. So I'll be keeping an eye on this story as we go along, and especially these congressional hearings in the next few weeks, and I will keep you up to date on this horrific story. Don't forget to like The Truth is Viral on Facebook. Follow us on Twitter. Subscribe to the blog at bobpowell.blogspot.com and share the heck out of my shows. Not just this one, but all of the shows that you can find. Just go back in time. Pretend like you're in a little time machine, because a lot of my shows are still viable today. A lot of good information. interviews with Chuck Missler, CIA spy Reza Khalili. There's a lot of good stuff out there. Just go down the blog and share away. Put it on Google+, put it on Facebook, put it in your Facebook groups as well as on your timeline. Put it on Twitter, put it on LinkedIn, put it on Reddit, MySpace. There's an entire plethora of options available to you once you click the share button below this video. Thank you for watching The Truth is Viral. My name is Bob Powell. And as always, God bless, Semper Fi, and Hoorah.
Thank you for watching The Truth is Viral with your host, Bobby Powell. Make sure to follow The Apocalypse on Twitter at The Truth is Viral. Like The Truth is Viral on Facebook, and if you can, please remember to donate to the cause via PayPal at www.bobpowell.blogspot.com.